Good work, by the way. Very good job. Let me know when you're ready. Chief Meteorologist Matt Lawpon alongside our meteorologist Gabe Maynor and John DeLusick. Tornado warning now issued for sections of Noxubee County. That in effect until 3:45 p.m. Doppler radar indicated rotation here, the reason why the National Weather Service in Jackson has issued this tornado warning. We've been live on Facebook the last little bit, as well as WTVA.com/live. And a reminder that if for whatever reason your signal goes out, we do continue to stream live at WTVA.com/live or in the WTVA News, WTVA weather apps. This tornado warning because of Doppler radar indicated rotation, and as we talked about a little bit ago, there's kind of a zone here where there is just barely enough moisture. This is kind of riding the north side of that, where maybe it tries to take that next step and attempt to produce a tornado. We'll go to the wind mode here on Storm Track Doppler radar, and we're looking at this point here near Linville. That is where this rotation is the strongest at this moment, moving generally toward Macon, toward Sugarlock, and eventually toward the north and east. We show Linville just outside WTVA 9 News viewing area in 2 minutes. We're looking at the Macedonia community in the WTVA 9 News viewing area there in sections of Noxubee County in 16 minutes, Sugarlock in 18 minutes, Calyx there in about 21 minutes. If it made it to Macon, we're about 24 minutes, just under a half hour for you. So you do still have a couple of moments to get within steps of that tornado safe place. Not a whole lot longer than that. Certainly the heavy rainfall and the wind already starting to arrive for you as this moves toward the northeast. And continue to watch this advance a little bit. Let's go ahead and update our time on the track, which you'll notice does slide a few moments off of this. So Sugarlock, we're down to 15 minutes now for you. We're looking at Macon in now 21 minutes. Doppler radar indicated rotation. That's kind of the headline on this so far, thankfully, has been, while we have seen rotation on Doppler radar, we have not had tornadoes spotted, we have not had debris confirmed. But if you do live near the Golson area, if you live near Sugarlock, we need to be within steps of that tornado safe place as this is moving in from the south and west at about 60 miles per hour. The movement on this thunderstorm with the potential that it could try at some point in the future to produce a tornado. There could be a little bit of small hail out of this, and we expect some 60, 65 mile per hour winds possible out of the strongest portion of this as well. So that tornado safe place we keep talking about, that's a sturdy structure in the middle of the lowest floor, a small windowless room where you can wrap up in blankets and pillows, put on a helmet if necessary to protect yourself from debris, and stay there until we can give you the all clear as these times continue to tick down there on the left-hand or right-hand portion of your screen. Slightly wider perspective on this, looking ahead for locations up here into Noxubee County. This is not a particularly healthy storm on radar, just doing the eyeball test on it. But the wind is just so strong today. The structure of the atmosphere has very strong winds that you just have to kind of protect against that kind of worst case scenario, which is the reason why I think National Weather Service in Jackson has gone ahead and issued this. I'm going to look from their radar site down in Jackson just to see. And this is a couple more minutes old, but you can see how that is a brighter return there for those strongest winds moving towards Sugarlock, south of Macon into Noxubee County. So that's why this has been issued as we kick it back over to our closest radar there coming out of Monroe County with that position. Definitely watching that closely. I want to make sure we've been monitoring on our chat also a number of other storms. I just want to make sure none of these have gotten more organized in the last couple minutes here. We're still good on that, so let's concentrate down south for locations there south of Macon in particular, where we're looking at this Doppler radar indicated rotation. So now is the time, if you live ahead of this, to make sure you know where unsafe places are. Unsafe places would be locations where you just don't want to be in case of a tornado. So we would include cars, trucks, mobile homes, all places that we don't want to find ourselves in this case. Large open rooms, upper floors, and rooms with windows. We do have a list of storm shelters available at WTVA.com/ I believe shelters, or you can just go to WTVA.com and search for shelters, and it will pull that up for you there. As we pull that down, looking at the latest wind mode here, I still show that over top of Linville. Let's make sure that we are on the latest scan. I believe we are. Let's go up a scan just to make sure we have the exact latest location on where this is. Sometimes the latest data is actually up a little bit, but it does look like we have exactly where it is. So now I have it just past Mississippi Highway 397, approaching Golson, Sugarlock, McLeod, Paulette, their locations in southern Noxubee County. So we're Golson now 6 minutes there, Macedonia 12 minutes, Sugarlock 15 minutes. And I'm going to advance it a little past this. I think the radar is just a moment old there, so let's go a little past that now. 11 minutes in Macedonia, down to 14 minutes Sugar Lock and Macon, south side town in particular. We're at 20 minutes on this rotation that could potentially at some point try to produce a tornado. We do have storm spotters in the area. We have heard nothing from them on our different storm chase chats. That's kind of a good sign there, but watching things closely to see if it takes it up to that next step at some point here in the near future. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lawpon. You're watching WTVA 9 News, and a tornado warning that is in effect for sections of Noxubee County. New update there. Even though the rainfall does not look terribly impressive, I can still see a pronounced area of circulation, perhaps even what we call a weak echo right there. That one of the things we look at on the presentation on radar to say, hey, is it possible there could be a tornado? Your time in Golson now down to 2 minutes, in Fair Hill down to 5 minutes, 10 minutes in Sugar Lock, Macon in 17 minutes. This is Doppler radar indicated rotation for you that could at some point attempt to produce a tornado as it's moving north and east at almost 65 miles per hour. So I'm going to get that into here to make sure that we have the right speed on some other things. And let's come down street level on this for a moment as we pull off that track for a second here and come down street level. So for Golson, we mentioned, we're only a couple of minutes away. This is going to track along Mississippi Highway 21 toward its intersection, Mississippi Highway 39. You can see we're about 8 miles away and 7 minutes away from Mississippi Highway 3921 intersection there. That's just west of Sugar Lock. We'll get Sugar Lock onto the screen here for a moment. And if we were timing this out for Sugar Lock, the time frame for you, we'd be looking closer to about 10 minutes on this closer scan. Looking at the wind mode here, it is a pronounced area of rotation. And we are far enough away from all of our radar sites that we don't get a rock-solid lock on these, unfortunately. So this might be as strong a lock as we get before something ends up producing a tornado. So that's why we highly encourage you to work your way to that tornado safe place. So to define what we're looking at for a moment here, this is Doppler radar indicated rotation that could develop into a tornado very soon. South of Golson, moving into Noxubee County, moving in the direction there of Sugar Lock. And I don't want to imply too much specificity from that arrow that I'm showing you there. So when we're talking about these tornado safety rules, a safe place you should find, yeah, you should absolutely be there in Sugar Lock. But if you live in the Macedonia community, you should be as well. If you live up in Macon, you should be as well. Let's get an angle on this from the last couple of scans. I mean, it's aimed pretty well here at Sugar Lock, McLeod, south side of Macon, where it is aimed at the moment. And that rotation has increased somewhat in intensity in the last few moments here. Let's see if we can get an idea on how strong that rotation is using Storm Track Doppler radar. It's showing that pixel-to-pixel wind change about 85 miles per hour. We get up there in excess of 80. We're this far away. Let's just go ahead and make some assumptions here that we could be talking about a tornado really trying to ratchet up on this. So that's the assumption I'm going to make at this moment now, looking at some of that latest data there. So let's circle it. Because our confidence in this attempting to produce a tornado is increasing, moving toward Fair Hill, Sugar Lock, Macon. Let's get a storm track on this with the very latest times for you to help you plan minute by minute as this approaches you. So we're Golson. It's basically over top of you now. Fair Hill within 3 minutes. Doppler radar indicated rotation of more than 80 miles per hour. It's probably damaging winds at the least. It could potentially, right here on the Noxubee County line, be a storm that's trying to produce a tornado. So we need to be in a sturdy structure, the middle of the lowest floor, a small windowless room where we can wrap up and find some blankets, pillows to protect ourselves in case this storm produces debris. Checking the debris mode on Storm Track Doppler radar, and I do have stuff on there. But at this distance, that's not shocking to see what we're seeing, especially with as low a precipitation return as we're getting. This is an extremely low return on the reflectivity. Part of that probably has to do with what radar site we're looking at. Let's switch this around, and we're going to look at this down from Jackson, just in case. We now show it just east of Golson along Mississippi Highway 21, our area of circulation. I'm going to see if I can switch this down to Jackson, just to see if that precipitation is more pronounced down there. It is not. We're far enough away. It's because it's low topped. It's because this is not a tall thunderstorm. I think that's the reason it's showing up as it is. Nonetheless, that rotation looks extremely significant even from the Jackson radar site. I'm going to bring it back to the one up north in Monroe County, which has it right on pretty much right on Mississippi Highway 21. So we bring down those tornado safety rules for a moment. We go back to the wind mode right along Mississippi Highway 21, tracking toward the intersection of Mississippi Highway 39 in the direction there of Sugarlock, locations that live south of Macedonia here in Noxubee County, in the path of area of rotation that could potentially be a tornado in the generation phase at this moment. We're still at about 80 miles per hour, 79 miles per hour on how fast this rotation is going at the moment here. So clearly an area of concern. I want to bring in our meteorologist, John DeLucic, here for a moment. Go ahead.
Passing over the chat, they were saying that there is a debris signature.
Okay. In Jan chat?
Yeah. Not Jan chat.
Hold on. We probably want to get you mic'd up there real quick. And which chat are we looking at?
It's just the Storm Spotters chat.
Storm Spotters. Okay. We will look closer at that here in just a moment. I'm not sure that I necessarily agree with that. Because of the thing we look for is we look for a brighter return on this in order to see if this is debris. It's certainly something we'll have to watch. There are some other things kind of showing up here, but I don't think it quite lines up quite right for this to be a debris signature, thankfully. That's not to say it couldn't be heading that direction, but at this moment here, I don't necessarily feel convinced on that potential on this. The reason this warning has been issued is because the rotation is there, and debris happens after a tornado struck something, so that is a almost academic discussion on whether or not this actually produces a tornado. It's not academic when it hits you, and it doesn't do anything to prepare you for the potential that you're hit. So where you see this red circle here, that's where we have an area of rotation that could potentially be trying to produce a tornado at this moment. The strong winds are absolutely there. Now let's check for debris on that scan there. I don't know that we have it again, but I don't know that we're going to be able to confirm it because we're looking well over 5,000 feet up in the air with this thunderstorm. Let's get you a new storm track on this. And let's, again, about 60, 65 miles per hour as we track this up here, clipping at least the south side there of Macon. Macon, we're looking at 13 minutes for you. Sugarlock, we're down to 7 minutes. Fairhill, it's on top of you right now. An area of rotation that could potentially be a tornado in the generation phase on this thunderstorm. And I mentioned a moment ago how high we were looking. We're looking more than a mile up in the air, about 5,300 feet in the air. So if this were producing a tornado, it would have to loft it fairly high up there for us to be able to see it. And that's the reason why certain tornadoes might not even be detected on radar here, like is sometimes the case because of how far away from the radar site we are. As we pull off that storm track for a moment there, let's talk specifics on location. I have it very near Mississippi Highway 21 west of Sugarlock. This is Sugarlock Road there. In its intersection with Highway 21, very near the intersection Mississippi Highway 39, kind of that area is where this is heading. We expect within the next scan or two we'll probably find it very near some of those locations. As I center this, I want to make sure we have the angle correct on where we're taking this. Yeah, I have this cross Highway 45 about 2 or 3 miles north of the Sugarlock area. Let's find out just for verification about how far north. Yeah, about 3 miles north of the Sugarlock area is where this should cross Mississippi, U.S. Highway 45, and it should do that almost where that sign is within the next 7 minutes. So here's how you can help at this moment if you're not down here in Noxubee County. If you know somebody that might be traveling along 45 here, this would be Macon, between Macon and Sugarlock, or between Macon and Meridian, and you know somebody that might be traveling along 45, within the next 7 minutes, this area of rotation that might be a tornado is going to pass over that roadway. Let them know that they need to probably stay north in Macon, just 15 minutes and we're done, we can move on. And same thing if they can stay south of the Sugarlock area, south of maybe Wallach, maybe even honestly stay back in Scuba, they should be in pretty good shape. And then in about 15 minutes, we can let everybody go and move on, unless, of course, you're in the path of this, in which case we're definitely going to have to keep watching this thunderstorm as it moves northeast. Our area of circulation is not quite as impressive this scan as it was the last scan. That's a good thing, but it still is absolutely showing up there near the Fairhill community, now just a little northeast of the Fairhill community where we have that at this moment here. As we switch our radar around and we go to the site down there in Jackson, it looks like that one is a couple of scans behind on its positioning. So we'll stay with where we're at on this storm here. As we show those moments tick down, If you do live in Sugarlock, live just north of Sugarlock, we're now 5 minutes from an area of rotation that could potentially be a tornado moving into your area. So definitely recommend you get to that tornado safe place, the middle of the lowest floor of a sturdy structure, a small windowless room where you can wrap up in blankets and pillows, put on a helmet to protect yourself from debris, and stay there until we can give you the all clear as we put on a track here that hopefully displays every single thing that we can find. We might not still have a ton, but we do show Calvary Church there. That would be in Noxubee County. We show that at 3:15 for you, so it's over top of you. Or Claremont Church, if you live near that, about 3:15. Running Water Creek Church, and those Reed Attendance Center at about 3:19, moving towards St. Peter's Church. At 3:23, Noxubee County Elementary School, 3:22 there, and eventually a few other churches in the path of this as it moves toward the northeast with a speed at about 60 to maybe 65 miles per hour. Let's circle where we expect it to be right now. We don't expect it to be too far from the intersection of Mississippi Highways 21 and 39 as it moves northeast at about that 60 to 65 miles per hour. This is not a healthy thunderstorm on radar, just looking at the way it looks, but the wind is strong, and the winds aloft are strong. And as we've talked about over and over again, we expect these to look incredibly strong aloft and maybe not quite so strong at the surface. We can't say for sure that we're not dealing with one of those situations, but we'll have to monitor it. I do need to come up here and address locations in Lowndes County for a moment here. This working its way through the Columbus area right now, a thunderstorm that doesn't really have much in the way of rotation, but definitely has some strong winds with it as it kind of works its way through Columbus. We'll get a storm track as that moves toward Lamar County, Alabama, obviously moving through the different roadways in Columbus at this point here. As we check in with our camera there in the Mississippi Department of Transportation, we'll pull up our cameras there in Columbus, definitely bouncing around at the moment as you would anticipate here. We're looking along 18th Avenue East and 82. Those folks probably wish they're not on the roadway at this moment here. No tornado with this. Strong straight line winds, definitely something we'll continue to monitor out of this thunderstorm as it moves through. The rainfall, some decent visibility, but you can see the sheets of rainfall kind of shifting from the southwest to the northeast on that thunderstorm there. As those folks kind of wait to go at that stoplight, that camera definitely bouncing around. So let some folks know that they have some rough stuff there moving through Columbus, but no tornadoes on that part of this line here. As we slide northward, we've seen some rotation off and on from this thunderstorm up here south of Solingen. It's broad. It's not producing a tornado at this moment. I do want to give you a quick storm track while we then hone back in on our storm around Sugarlock. Show this going forward to Hinton Springs at 3:17, Cruz 3:19, Beaverton there at about 3:23, Gwynn at about 3:29. And toward Brilliant and Haleyville, close to about 3:39, 3:41 for you. Winfield, 3:41. Not nearly the storm that went through Winfield just a couple months ago, thankfully. And north of this, nothing to be concerned of. Now, you hear the rainfall here in Tupelo, some other spots, and I could show you plenty of cameras with plenty of heavy rainfall. Can't hardly see out of ours on the camera here. This line, unlikely to produce tornadoes. It would take some significant strengthening before that would be the case. Is that possible? It's not impossible, but it's not likely. You remain, most of us, under tornado watches at this point here, but I think it's really primarily this lead line that we're most concerned with that potential that maybe one of these tries to produce a tornado, and certainly Noxubee County is where we are the most concerned at this moment with the storm that is approaching the Sugarlock community at a speed of about 60 miles per hour. As I kind of bring this in here near Sugarlock and we go back to the wind mode, we still show fairly strong change in wind direction there, pretty much right over top of Sugarlock on the northwest side of town there, just south of Card Cemetery Road. We mentioned a moment ago this will be crossing US 45 within moments. And that again continues to be the expectation within probably another minute and a half. This shows about 1, maybe 2 minutes it'll cross US 45 there, about 2 miles north of Sugarlock. Is it a tornado? Maybe. No guarantees. I don't have proof. If I look at the debris mode here, the reason why we see some of the blues and stuff in this same area where we do have that big change that we would typically point to is the fact when you look at the rainfall here, this is also kind of an open area. We would expect if we were looking for debris to see some of these reds and oranges at the same spot there where we see the bright blues. We don't have that, so while this looks suspicious, this is not producing tornado damage at this moment that's detectable. That's not to say something isn't going on down closer to the ground that's not detectable, but this is not one that is detectable for tornado damage at this moment. So we're in the if, maybe, possibly, hopefully not phase on tracking this tornado warning until 3:45 p.m. Current time is now 3:20. kicking over that here in a couple moments. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lompon, alongside our meteorologist Gabe Maynor, and John DeLusick, as we're monitoring a tornado-warned thunderstorm moving through Noxubee County. We have had no reports of damage from this thunderstorm yet, but certainly have to watch it extremely closely. Now, you'll notice the movement of this now has our area of circulation pretty much over top of US 45, about 2 miles north of Sugarlock. For folks who live in Macon, I know we have a lot of viewers that live in Macon, this is going to pass south of Macon, moving more toward McLeod, Prairie Point, Dinsmore, toward Pickensville, Alabama, maybe just a little south of that. The angle that we are tracking in this thunderstorm here as it works toward Aliceville, as well as maybe Carrollton eventually. So we show this McLeod at about 8 minutes. You'll notice on our times here we do not have Macon. What does that mean? I would still keep you in your tornado safe place. Certainly if you live north of Mississippi Highway 14 in Macon, you're under this tornado warning. Let's be extra safe. But the most serious concern remains for locations now north of Sugarlock, moving toward Elon Road, southwest of Macon, moving toward McLeod. Locations around Aubrey, we show 15 minutes, McLeod 8 minutes, Dinsmore 12 minutes, Pickensville 22 minutes, Aliceville 24 minutes as it works its way into Pickens County, Alabama. The folks over at the National Weather Service in Jackson are contemplating whether or not they're going to issue a tornado warning on, that might be a different thunderstorm here, because they're mentioning Fayette, Lamar, and Marion. They're watching this northern storm here, and that's what they've gone ahead and done. And this is the one we've been watching for quite a while up here. They've issued a tornado warning on that because of the way it has kind of strengthened a bit more. You can kind of see the angle changing. The angle more up and down on this versus it was southwest, northeast to southwest. And so that change in angle there is the reason why they've gone ahead and issued a tornado warning on this. So let's get you a storm track on that storm. Now southeast of Solingent, moving toward Winfield and Brilliant. We show it in Moscow Community 3 minutes, Beaverton in 9 minutes, Ewan there in about 16 minutes, Winfield in 18 minutes, Glen Allen 22 minutes, Brilliant in 24 minutes, and continue to work northeast from there to get you a specific time period for crossing I-22. Our best guesstimate on that at this point here is about 23 minutes there. A little northeast of Winfield, about where we would expect it to cross I-22. So same thing we talked about with 45. We need to make sure we don't have folks traveling along that stretch of road about 25 minutes from now. So that would put us about 50 after the hour, somewhere in that neighborhood. About 3:50 or so when we'd expect it to cross I-22 here. East of Hamilton, kind of west of Jasper there, north of Winfield, about where we would expect it. And this should track pretty close to Winfield. We'll come back to that here in a moment. Let's slide southward to our storm now that's southeast of Macon. Doppler radar indicated rotation continues to be fairly strong on this thunderstorm northeast of Sugarlock. I'm going to check this a couple different spots, still up around 70 to almost 80 miles per hour on some of those strong rotation winds on this thunderstorm. And our time continued to kick down for, I know this fairly rural portion of the WTVA 9 News viewing area, but McLeod in 6 minutes, where Dinsmore in 10 minutes, Aubrey in 13 minutes, and Memphis, Alabama in 15 minutes. Strong rotation still showing up on this. We've had no confirmation of a tornado. Unfortunately, confirming a tornado happens after something's been damaged, and there's nothing preparatory about that. There's nothing that prepares you for what could happen based on that. And that's why at this moment still defining this as a Doppler radar indicated area of rotation that could potentially produce a tornado in the near future. As we see that time ticking down, we're now 4 minutes in McLeod, Dinsmore in 9 minutes, Aubrey in 12 minutes, and Memphis, Alabama in 13 minutes. We recommend that if you live near or in any of these locations that you find your way to a tornado safe place, a sturdy structure in the middle of the lowest floor, a small windowless room place you can wrap up in blankets and pillows. We're looking north here of, I believe that is Mahorner Road. I'm going to have to look closer at this. Mahorner Road. I apologize for that. It's west of Paulette Road for sure. South of Elon Road, where our area of circulation is, moving toward Cooksville Road, moving toward Mississippi Highway 14, southeast of the Macon area. Doppler radar indicated rotation. We cannot confirm tornado debris on that at this moment. We will continue to monitor. As we widen things out for a moment, we're going to slide northward and we're going to double check everything else we have going on. Nothing of concern here in Winston County at this point, but we do have that tornado warning in effect for locations back around Marion, Lamar, and I believe Fayette counties on the Alabama side. Let's come in a little bit closer on storm track Doppler radar to that thunderstorm, which has seen some significant recent strengthening just east of Solent, southeast of Solent, this area near Mulberry Road, where we're watching this area of rotation moving toward Mulberry Road and County Road 49 as it moves northeast. Let's get a storm track on this based on the latest scan here. I'm going to assume that the scan's a couple minutes out. I showed you in there at about 11 minutes, not a ton of heavily populated areas. So as we pull that down, we're going to kind of show every church, old school, and stop sign that we can on here. We show Taylor Springs Free Will Baptist Church in about 2 minutes. Lovejoy Church there at 329. Piney Grove Church in Lamar County, Alabama at 330. And Ewan, 335 as it moves toward you. Marion County High School about 335. So definitely going to have some strong winds with this and could potentially be trying to produce a tornado. Going back to the wind mode here on Storm Track Doppler radar, we're not quite there, but we are close to this trying to produce a tornado at this moment. It looks like the wind mode, even though we're popping between a bunch of stuff here, looks like the wind mode is running a little bit ahead of the rainfall mode. So let's stick with the wind mode for a second near Mulberry Road, east of Moscow, east and southeast of Solent, south of Cruz, where this thunderstorm is showing greater signs of rotation at this moment. So the longer track, let's make sure we have some other folks in it. I know we've already had one of these in the last few months in Winfield. You're pretty close to the center where this one could end up going, unfortunately. So watching closely for you. Ewan, we showed 10 minutes there. Winfield, we're 14 minutes away. So we need to be getting to that tornado safe place if you live up here in this far eastern sections of Lamar and far southern sections of Marion County, far northwest Fayette County. This is Doppler radar indicated rotation that could potentially try to produce a tornado. If you're in Solent, we can come out of that tornado safe place. I know we might have some Solent addresses out here. You need to still be, if you're really east of Alabama Highway 17, we definitely need to probably still be in that tornado safe place. Give me a few more minutes if you live in Solent proper, but you're really probably past the worst of it at this point here. So watching this Doppler radar indicated rotation, please get that tornado safe place if you live in advance of this, just to be safe. As we clear this information off here for a moment and we slide southward, we're going to double check our storm. New update on our storm in Noxubee County. I want to bring in our meteorologist, John DeLusick, with a little bit of information. John, what are you seeing? Okay, and so let's bring up this picture and I'll let you, and John, make sure your mic is on and we'll mute and unmute in the back room there. And I have the picture up. Give me a little bit of information on this.
That's from Cameron in Sugarlock. Has a picture. He's up there.
Still not hearing you real quick. Let's take a look at it there. So this is from Cameron in Sugarlock. Is that what you said there?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. His mic looks good back here, just so you know. Okay. So Cameron and Sugarlock, some of the low-hanging stuff, this would be along 45, and you can see definitely the low-hanging stuff with that. I don't see a clear-cut tornado there. Definitely an organized thunderstorm, looking, frankly, a little better, a little more organized on that picture there than it necessarily did on radar a moment ago. And that's the reason we kind of, you take the extra step to take these seriously just in case, is sometimes in person they look a little bit more impressive, right? This is now over top of McLeod, south of Prairie Point, moving toward Pickensville. We show Aubrey in 7 minutes there, Memphis, Alabama, 8 minutes, Pickensville in 13 minutes, McMillan 15 minutes, and Saps in 17 minutes. Doppler radar indicated rotation on this thunderstorm, and certainly organized on that picture we saw a moment ago. If that picture, I'll pop that back up for a moment. So this is that area where there's at least broad rotation there on that picture that we're tracking here. So this is what's moving through McLeod. This actually is a fairly open area, all things considered. We have a lot of trees around the viewing area. This is not one of the spots where we have a ton of trees, so we usually have a pretty good viewpoint of this here. So if storm spotters are on this, we will know if this ends up producing a tornado. And thankfully at this point here, it's still a maybe and possibly not a guarantee. Now we do have a new severe thunderstorm warning that has been issued a couple of moments ago. Let's get some information on that one here. I believe that is for locations just south of this one, and that is for the storm is south of Louisville, I believe. Yeah, still showing some signs near Philadelphia of a little bit of rotation on that. That's what this is indicating there. Doppler radar indicated rotation on this thunderstorm, so have to monitor that. Let's get a storm track out the kind of clip location, southern Noxubee County. We got to go back up to Marion County for a moment on that storm, Marion and Lamar County. So Bloomfield, 1 minute. In our area, we'd be looking closer to, where we're at, Wallach in about 32 minutes, Scuba 33 minutes, Calyx about 35 minutes, about a half hour away. We'll monitor that more, Dinsmore about 47 minutes as that gets a little bit closer to you. Let's slide northward. Let's go up here to Lamar County. This storm has for a number of hours looked fairly well organized, still looking as much at this moment here. Our rotation continuing to get a little bit more organized. I'm going to circle the last scan here where we have it. And the reason this tornado warning is issued, and it still shows it's fairly broad, but the reason it's been issued, you can kind of see it curl back in. I'm going to get on this side for a moment. You can kind of see the last couple scans how it kind of curls back in. It brightens up. It tightens up. So I can't say for sure this is producing a tornado at this moment, but I can tell you that we're in like that 10-minute span where if it's going to do it, it's probably going to do it. And it's moving very near U.S. Highway 278, just south of U.S. Highway 278, where I would have it at this moment here near County Road 49 in eastern Lamar County. We should have an update coming in here in just a second on the location. I'm going to advance it there just southeast of Beaverton. Beaverton, we need to make sure we are in our tornado safe place from this one. Guin as well. Twin as this moves toward the northeast. There's our latest scan. And looking at the rainfall mode, which has shown an update there, I can check and see for debris. I don't, at this moment here, think I have tornado debris on this. But we'll have to watch that. We're going to revisit that here in just a moment. Let's get you a couple times here as this continues to tick away near Sorghum Hollow Road, south of U.S. Highway 278, moving toward Gwin. We're looking about 5 minutes for you. Twin in 9 minutes, Tucker in 12 minutes. The time frame until this crosses Interstate 22. As I clear off that storm track for a moment, we're now less than 9 minutes near the Twin community where this would cross Interstate 22. It has pulled more north the last couple of scans. That sometimes happens, but this one is definitely in a strengthening phase. Is it producing a tornado now? Radar doesn't say quite yet, but it is close. So please take this seriously. Please find your way to your tornado safe place, and please avoid unsafe places such as cars and trucks and mobile homes, large open rooms, upper floors, and rooms with windows. We need to stay away from all of those different things and migrate our way to a tornado safe place, a sturdy structure on the lowest floor of a sturdy structure, a small windowless room, a place we can wrap up in blankets and pillows. Basically, we're looking to protect ourselves from the potential of debris and stay there until we can give you the all clear. The tornado warning in effect, though, for locations in Lamar, far eastern Lamar County, just south of US 278. We can come out of that tornado safe place in Soligent and in Cruz. Beaverton, we still need to be there for a couple more minutes. But Twin, Guin, this is headed toward you. It has pulled toward the north side of this tornado warning in the last couple of minutes here. I also, hold on, near Sorghum Hollow Road. A couple things I see going on here, because there's such strong winds aloft that one of these multiple bursts of wind could try to really spin something up, and I think we're getting really close here. So this is really that part right there trying to pull into this, and I think the combination there, we really need to make sure, if you know some folks that live out there in Gwin, we need to call them and let them know that this could be trying to spin up a tornado pretty much as we speak. There's a couple areas there that are looking like they could try to combine these two areas there, and if they do, it's about the time frame that it would get there. So let me give you a time, and then we have to check out. I believe we might have a new tornado warning down south we need to check on here in just a moment. Gwin, we show in 5 minutes, 6 minutes into Guin. There. So Doppler radar indicated rotation, and that's at most. It might be closer to 2 or 3. Radar isn't perfect. Timing isn't perfect. Do the best we can, but it's just not perfect. There's our new tornado warning issued by the folks at the National Weather Service in Birmingham, Alabama, for our storm that is southeast of Prairie Point. Going back to the rainfall mode, it's clear-cut what we're looking at here. Strong inflow into this thunderstorm. It has rotation to the west of Memphis, Alabama, just west of the Mississippi-Alabama state line. Let's get a longer storm track on this ahead. They've gone with a very narrow warning on this, but reform, you're in the path. We show Memphis, Alabama in 3 minutes, Pickensville in 9 minutes. We're looking towards Saps in 12 minutes, Carrollton 17 minutes, reform 26 minutes for you as it moves in your direction. Stanzel 22 minutes, and Ecola there at 35 minutes. Strong rotation on Doppler radar that could potentially be a tornado in the generation phase on that thunderstorm there. We've had no proof of tornado touchdowns. We don't always get those, though, fortunately and unfortunately in this scenario, but watching it very, very closely nonetheless. you, as we're looking here, John, you might mention in the Slack chat, just double check with them to see if they have any reports they can put in there. I don't know that there really are a whole lot of those coming in right now, thankfully, but we'll have to see. So let's back things off for just a moment here. Let's readdress where we're at for just a second. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lopon alongside our meteorologists Gabe Maynor and John DeLusick, tracking a few areas of rotation here, kind of lining up near the Mississippi-Alabama state line. The tornado watches have been issued for pretty much all locations. We do expect those to be canceled out after this last line comes through your area. So if you're west of Houston here, you're Grenada, you're Kilmichael, you're Coffeyville, you're Oxford, you're done. Out here, Louisville, probably, this line isn't completely through. You have more moisture there. West Point, we're probably done. Amory, we're probably done. We're watching this line for you. You're in pretty good shape. Red Bay, probably done as well. But it's pretty clear cut where our strongest storms are, and out here along the Alabama state line is where they are at this point here. We're watching this one that's just west of Winfield near Guin, and as we go back to the wind mode on Storm Track Doppler radar, that is what I was concerned with. We have this broader area right there, strong winds, but we have this area right there where it's really kind of peaked up on the tornado potential right there. You know what, let's look hard at this for a second here. We might have confirmation. We got to come in and it'd be only like 1 pixel, which is maybe pushing it on confirmation. So let's circle this extremely compact area of rotation. Let's look at the reflectivity, see if it matches. We have some areas there that are pretty close. Let's look at the debris mode. So 2 areas. We're going to have to go specifically on this back to the wind. I'll try not to move my hand to make sure. That's pretty close. Let's go to the reflectivity. Let's pull this down where we get rid of the smoothing on it for a moment, because I think we need to know as best we can if this is going to qualify. So those 2 areas there where we have the return, the wind matches up. The precipitation, at least on that one, we might have confirmation of a tornado on that. It's not a slam dunk, but it's close enough that I think we should treat it very seriously, like this is trying to produce a tornado. So we're tracking this. I'm going to conclude both Gwin and Guin in this. We show 4 to 5 minutes. It's going to be ahead of that because, again, radar is always at least a few seconds old, so let's track it based on where it is now. Watch that time slip down to 3 minutes there as it's moving in your general direction. So moving toward Alabama Highway 107. Moving toward U.S. Highway 43, what we believe it's possible that briefly this kicked out a little tornado debris in that spot. Let's look at the rainfall mode there. Hard to say. Close enough. Let's just take it seriously nonetheless. No, there's some kind of topographical feature there. There's some kind of hill or trees or something like that. It's hitting there over and over again. I think we're still in the maybe phase on this, which I'd be just fine with. I'm sure you would be as well. Let's widen this out just a little more now that we've got in super duper close. Let's go back to the wind mode on this, and let's track that area of circulation. We show near Mississippi Highway 107, moving toward Brilliant and Twin. I'm going to go back and make sure we'd probably need to get Winfield in this track as well. That's going to be just a little north of Winfield, so less than 3 minutes in Gwin, Twin 7 minutes, Tucker 9 minutes, Brilliant in 12 minutes, and Goldmine in 13 minutes. Doppler radar indicated rotation at some point could produce a tornado. It's been very close. We're kind of in that 10-minute time frame where if it was going to do it, it would. Let's put the smoothing back on that. It sometimes allows us to see some features slightly better. Let's slide southward here. Most of Lamar County, if you're in Kingville, if you're in Millport, there's just heavy rainfall for you, some gusty wind. Back here in the Lowndes County, the worst is past you at this point. It is these storms that are in Pickens County that we are most concerned with, along with that storm that's in now Marion County near Memphis, Alabama, where our strongest area of rotation is, though there's still a broad area of rotation there to the east of Ethelsville. Let's track the Memphis, Alabama area closer. And as we do, let's get a storm track that kind of takes that Carrollton reform. Watch that time, unfortunately, continue to tick down for the Garden community there in 4 minutes. Saps in 6 minutes. Stillburg in 9 minutes. 10 minutes in Low Springs. Carrollton 11 minutes. Stanfield 16 minutes. Reform 20 minutes. Gordo 23 minutes. And eventually out of WTVA 9 News viewing area shortly thereafter. The wind on this still remains pretty strong. with the change in wind direction probably still up there in that 70 to 80 mile per hour range. Let's see if, as we get closer to the radar side, if it has a better lock. We're still 60. I'm going to go all along the line here and see if we pick out something that's a little bit more. Yeah, that 60, maybe 65 mile per hour range. So that is still a little bit weaker, but let's see. It's still, there's still enough there that it bears watching closely. So obviously moving toward Alabama Highway 14, approaching Alabama Highway 17. What time for those? We've talked over and over again about stopping folks driving along different highways. Let's talk about a few more at the moment. So I would place it pretty much over the Tennessee-Tom Bigby Waterway. We're looking about 2 minutes or so to Alabama Highway 14 between Pickensville and Aliceville. And we're talking about maybe 7 minutes or so to, that would be Alabama Highway 86, I believe, there, east of Pickensville, west of Carrollton, probably about halfway between those two. And it is moving generally toward Carrollton, as you can see, with that latest angle on this. Now, that latest scan has it just east of where we had it a moment ago, so those times we talked about there ticking down somewhat. So let's track this at about... we'll still keep it about 60, maybe 65 miles per hour or so. We show Beavertown there in 2 minutes, Saps in 4 minutes, Beasley in 7 minutes, Lois Springs 8 minutes, Carrollton 9 minutes, and Stanville in 14 minutes. Doppler radar indicated rotation for you, something we'll have to monitor closely. As we look toward our north storm, continuing to show some signs of weakening at this point here. Let's come in closer, up here, closer to Winfield. Yeah, more disorganized than it was just a couple minutes ago. Oh yeah, way more disorganized. So that's a good sign. Go back to the rain mode. Yeah, that continues to weaken. It looks like the National Weather Service there in Birmingham has gone ahead and canceled that tornado warning. Yeah, right there. See, it's behind me. Right here, it's trying to wrap up and spin something up for just a moment right there. And now it's gone. So good sign. We're also, kind of on the north end of what is possible today. So they have gone ahead and canceled that tornado warning for the northern storm there. Still heavy rainfall out of that one. The southern storm, though, remains a little bit more impressive. We haven't touched on the storm near Philadelphia in the last few minutes here. Let's switch over to Jackson for a moment, take a couple looks at that. That still has some pretty decent rotation there. And there's another one kind of down on the south end of that. So really two there that we're monitoring. Let's get an angle on this here to see if we can get a better angle on where it's going. This one moving toward Linville. Very similar path to the one we tracked just a little bit ago.
Law enforcement's reporting trees down just southeast of Ware in Choctaw.
Okay, so report from law enforcement of trees down near Ware in Choctaw County. We'll go up and look at that here in a minute. I appreciate that from the newsroom there, Kelly, with that information. So Linville, 3 minutes. This is an area of rotation, not as strong as what came through a little bit ago, but you'll notice almost the exact same path, exact same folks wanting to probably be within a couple of steps of their tornado safe place just in case. Definitely have to watch it. So let's go look up here toward Ware for a second. And John, if you'd be able to... I see you got a couple things coming through the chat here. Let's look at David and Prairie Point for a moment. This would be the storm. We got to come up to our tornado warning thunderstorm here for a second. So this would be the storm up here near Pickensville right now when it was near Prairie Point. So Prairie Point right there. And let's see where the angle would have been from them. So they would have been looking right at the back edge of this. So this is in Prairie Point. Let's bring this up here. And I believe David's sending us this picture. That's a fairly... Say again?
It is correct, David.
David? Okay. Perfect. So, I mean, this is organized. There's the rainfall wrapping around. You can see the lowering on this. So that definitely worthy of a tornado warning for sure on this. So this is in Prairie Point on the Mississippi side of the Mississippi-Alabama state line near the Noxubee and Pickens County line there as well, just the kind of where those two come together. It's about where that is. Just southeast of Pickensville where that storm is at this moment here, and still showing near the Saps community some pretty decent rotation on this as well. Let's get you a new storm track based on that time there toward Carrollton, Stanville, Gordo. all kind of in the path of this. SAPs we show you in 1 minute. For Carrollton in particular, we're 6 minutes now, 6 minutes until this makes its way into Carrollton. A storm that has looked fairly impressive from some of the pictures we have seen. I'll pop that picture back up at the same time here as it's moving in your direction. We show SAPs in 1 minute. This is moving toward you in Carrollton. Now, what is this? This is not a tornado in this picture here, but this is a storm trying hard to produce one. I mean, it is February after all, but ingredients are ingredients, and the ingredients are there to get very close to producing a tornado and possibly produce a tornado in our area today. This is not a high risk for tornadoes, but that risk is definitely there if the ingredients combine. You can make a whole pan of brownies, or if you're really, really good at measuring things precisely, you can make a single brownie. Is that what we're looking at here? That one storm that tries to do something? It's possible, but luckily to this point, we have not cooked up many tornadoes, and hopefully that is the direction this continues to head. But if you live near Beavertown, Saps community, and eventually there toward Carrollton, that's what this looks like as this storm is moving toward you. A lowering on it, some rotation showing up, but storm spotters that thankfully are continuing to monitor it. So as this now moves, continues to encroach on Alabama Highway 17 in its intersection of Alabama Highway 86 there in Pickens County. Carrollton, we're down to less than 6 minutes for you. Stanzel in 10 minutes. Reform in 15 minutes for an area of Doppler radar indicated rotation. Checking for the debris mode here, and I do not have tornado debris that I can confirm. I can update my position though, looking at that just a little bit more, and I'd show now Carrollton, we're down to 4 minutes for you. So Doppler radar indicated rotation on this thunderstorm. So if you live in Carrollton, we highly encourage you to be in that sturdy structure, in that safe place on the lowest floor of that sturdy structure, a place where we can wrap up in blankets and pillows, put on a helmet to protect ourselves from debris, and stay there until we can give you the all clear. Speaking of all clears, Pickensville, you can all clear, and I guess we didn't directly say it, but if you live on the Mississippi side, we don't have any storms right now on the Mississippi side related to this that we need to be concerned with. There are a few back toward Noxubee County, southwest of Noxubee County, that could potentially at some point try to produce a tornado. They're not at that stage yet. Looking back at some of those thunderstorms, they're fairly impressive looking depending on which radar site we're on here, and looking at the wind mode out of Jackson. That one on the southern part there is definitely more impressive, moving toward DeWeese and Moscow and DeKalb and Scuba eventually. Let's get a storm track on that, but that's just outside the WTVA 9 News viewing area, so we're not going to spend a whole lot of time on that as a result. I'm going to advance it forward just a little bit, just in case it picks up a little bit of speed. I'd rather give you too much warning than too little. So we show this getting to the Scuba area in just under 30 minutes. If you know some folks that maybe go to school down there at East Mississippi, let them know that this is heading their direction. Calyx in about 31 minutes, Moscow in about 8 minutes. There's an area of rotation on the north side of this that's nowhere near as impressive. Let's go back a few. Let's see if it's even arguably still there. Yeah, I don't know that I could really argue that I can even definitely pick that out anymore. It was near Linsville, but I'm just not seeing it at this moment here, thankfully. So coming up here toward Carrollton, a storm encroaching on you next couple of minutes here. The rotation has not improved on the rainfall mode. We've gone from a situation where this is curling all the way back around like that, where it's kind of arcing back at this point here. It's a good sign. That's a sign that this is hopefully weakening a little bit. Still showing some strong straight line winds on storm track Doppler radar. Still some pretty decent rotation, but this rotation, the angle's not right. It would need to be like this. I can never get these angles right. It would need to be like this in order for it to be producing a tornado at this instant, and it's going the opposite way. It's going through a weakening phase. So an excellent sign there related to this. So let me see if I can draw that on here. So our winds are kind of a little bit misaligned on this, thankfully. So good sign. We're moving the right direction on that one there, and it's not inconceivable that the National Weather Service might end up canceling that warning before its concluding time at 4:15 p.m. John and or Gabe, would we be able to check the chat? They just issued a mezzo, just to kind of see what they're talking about. You want to click view text on that because the graphic won't pop up right. Just because of the way they take a couple minutes. So current time is 3:48. I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lopon alongside our meteorologists Gabe Maynor and John DeLusick, tracking a tornado-warned thunderstorm through Pickens County, Alabama. To this point, we have had 0 reports of tornado damage today. Now, that's not to say we haven't had reports of damage, and to give you an example of one of those reports, this completely outside of any tornado, this coming from back up around the Tupelo area. As I pop that up for you, this is a stoplight knocked down there due to some of the strong winds. And we talked a lot about it, that we were going to have these strong winds today that would do damage outside of storms. That's what has happened. We've had those strong winds, and I appreciate folks for sending in your weather pictures and sharing those with us. Let's see if it'll let me just go back and swipe to the last. This one, though, is a different story. This is a stronger storm. This was the one that moved through the Prairie Point area. This is the exact thunderstorm here that we are talking about at this moment that is moving toward Carrollton and is pretty much over top of Carrollton. It was more organized just a little bit ago. If I kind of widen this out just a little bit more to show you where we were at with this. If you go back just a little bit, you can see it definitely has a more pronounced kind of hook shape to it than what it has now. That has become less pronounced in the last little bit. That's a sign of weakening. And I think if it goes another scan or two like this, the National Weather Service in Birmingham might be inclined to cancel this tornado warning. That is the hope and prayer at this point, and hopefully that is what ends up coming to fruition. But what does that mean if you're in Carrollton or Stanzel or Reform? I mean, I'd still be in my tornado safe place because things do change, or at least within steps of it if we're in Carrollton. But this is over top of you at this moment. Looking at the wind mode, there is still a wind return that shows signs of rotation. Even if it is more broad, even if it's slightly less organized than it was a little bit ago, it's still showing signs of rotation along Alabama Highway 86, about 1.5 miles east of the Carrollton area, moving toward Halls Mills Road. You're going to track just a little north of Alabama Highway 86 toward the Bell community and US 82 near Gordo. This will probably stay a little southeast of Reform if it continues at this rate. Now, the reason you see more reds and greens up here just has everything to do with the angle versus the radar site. Certainly watching that angle closely. But here's where this gets tricky on how to evaluate these, right? I have 2 areas here we're watching near Macon, which we have not mentioned, and the one we have up here toward Carrollton. Well, why haven't we mentioned this one, and what does it mean for both of them? See how small this thunderstorm is? There is kind of a certain critical mass, a certain size on how large it has to be before you're going to end up getting it to produce a tornado and not just rotate, not just have all the features. It's too small at this moment here to do that. That's why there's not a tornado warning. This one is large enough in Aliceville, has a history of rotating for a long time, and that's the reason why that warning is in effect for those folks there near Carrollton, east of Carrollton in particular, southeast of Stanzel, and moving toward the north and east. And this one, you can see a little more red showing up in this last scan here. That, again, owes itself partially to the angle versus the radar site, and still has enough rotation that it bears monitoring for sure. So let's continue to get a storm track on this. Right along Alabama Highway 86, moving toward Gordo. About 8 minutes from Gordo, of course, Gordo right there at US 82. So if you know some folks that travel US 82 for work or whatever reason at this time of day, you might just give them a call. They might not be on the road. They might be just to let them know that there is a storm that at the very least is going to have some strong winds that might hit the side of a car and cause some issues as it goes across, and could potentially try to produce a tornado. It is southeast of Reform, and it'll be southeast of Reform moving through Gordo in about 8 minutes. So if we can stop folks in Reform for about 10 to 15 minutes and don't let them go on through, we should be just fine after this gets through. And if we can stop them before they make it into the Pickens County line as well, if they're kind of heading toward the Columbus area, then that would do us some good as well. So it's kind of going in that middle ground there, very near Gordo here in the next about 10 minutes or so. So watching that very, very closely. Let's wind things out. Let's kind of address where everything stands at this moment here. And at this time, we continue to watch the majority of the WTVA 9 News viewing area being removed from a tornado watch. This has happened just the last few minutes from Amory northward of the Tennessee state line and westward. The National Weather Service in Memphis has canceled all those counties out of the tornado watch. We still have Jackson holding on to their counties, and of course Birmingham and Huntsville, all of our counties on the Alabama side still under tornado watch at this point here. But we do expect, as this line continues to march eastward, more and more locations will be cleared from these tornado watches over the next little bit. So anything that's behind this line, you are done. So even though technically the watch still lingers for you in Natala County and Choctaw County, we're done with the tornado threat for you. Same thing in Oktibbeha and Clay counties. You are done. Pretty much done in Lowndes County, but that one thunderstorm that we are watching that I said was too small a minute ago is one we have to monitor closely. I said it was too small a minute ago. It has gained some size in the last couple minutes near Bigby Valley. Let's get you a storm track on that one there because it has gotten more organized, moving more toward Pickensville, Stanville, and some of the same spots we were tracking a moment ago. This is a different area rotation. It is not a tornado warning. It's just kind of on that lower edge. It's kind of the little brother of what we had. If the little big brother didn't produce, there's no guarantees the little brother will as well. Just giving you a heads up just in case. Bigby Valley in 3 minutes, Pickensville 7 minutes, Carrollton in 17 minutes. This is another area of rotation moving toward you, moving toward reform within about 26 minutes. But more than a decent chance that this does not end up producing a tornado. Hopefully that is the case, but that is where it stands as of 3:54. Speaking to the 3:54 end of this, we do have a newscast coming up, WTVA 9 News at 4 p.m. They'll be coming up here in about 5 minutes. At that time, if we don't see an intensification, and as soon as this warning is dropped, we'll probably drop off of LOV, WLOV Fox 27, which you can also pick us up there. Probably drop off of that at that time if the warning is lifted, which does remain a decent possibility at this moment here. But still an area of rotation. It is broad rotation. It may or may not be a tornado. I would say it's more likely than not to not be a tornado, but it's more likely to be some strong winds moving toward Gordo, approaching U.S. Highway 82. We show less than 2 minutes from crossing US 82, pretty much in the Gordo area at this moment where we are watching that. Strong straight line winds, at least some rotation there. Could it be a tornado? It's not impossible. Have we had reports of tornadoes out of this? No. So, and hopefully that remains the case. As we kind of evaluate this line up there, once it gets into Fayette County, there's another area of rotation, but that's just outside the WTVA 9 News viewing area. As we slide up and double check the northern half of this, which did have a tornado warning on it earlier on that did include locations near Winfield, that area of rotation's all done. The big limiting factor, we talked a lot about this the last couple of days, was moisture, was fuel. There wasn't enough fuel. To this point, that has saved us, that lack of fuel to get these. We had enough to get storms going. We had plenty of wind to get them in the right directions to spin up, and that's what's happening here. But we have, to this point, lacked enough instability to get that updraft, what's going up in Thunderstorm, to stretch it enough to get that tornado down to the ground. It stretches kind of both directions in that scenario. So that has helped us to this point, and hopefully that continues to be the case going forward. But there's still a few spots there, like what we were talking about down here into Pickens County, that we are watching this closely still at this moment near Bostic Road, just to the west of Gordo, an area of rotation that may not produce a tornado, but it could potentially produce a little sporadic damage with this tornado warning remaining in effect until 4:15. So Doppler radar has indicated rotation could develop into a tornado very soon, but at this point spotters have not confirmed it, and tornado debris has not been confirmed on storm track Doppler radar. So we are in the maybe, possibly, but no guarantees time frame. So still in Gordo, let's get into a sturdy structure on the lowest floor of a sturdy structure, and in the middle of that, want to find a small windowless room, a place where we can wrap up in blankets and pillows, put on a helmet to protect ourselves from debris, and stay there until we can give you the all clear. Our area of circulation pretty much right over top of US 82 within the next 30 to 45 seconds. Looking at the wind mode there. That's still a pronounced enough wind return. Let's go back a couple scans. My angle isn't quite right. It's too much this direction and not quite enough this way. But that's gotten bright enough there that it's concerning because, again, as we've said over and over and over and over again, radar's not perfect. So just because radar doesn't show it doesn't mean at the ground level something else isn't going on. Looking farther away from the Birmingham radar there. Still shows rotation on that one as well. So it might not be perfectly aligned. Still shows strong rotation on that. So it might not be perfectly aligned at ground level, but that's awfully close. That's enough that certainly we hope the folks are in their tornado shelter there in eastern Pickens County because of this one there. Let's circle where we're talking now. Pretty much right over top of US 82 near Gordo is where we would place it at this moment. It's about to move out of the WTVA 9 News viewing area within the next couple of minutes here. So we'll get basically all locations we can. We show Hargrove United Methodist Church at 3:58, New Home Church at 3:58. At 4 p.m. p.m. Pleasant Grove Church, Crossroads Church at 401, and 404 at Dunn's Creek Missionary Baptist Church. For the folks in the back room, if you would count me down to the 4 o'clock show, we'll hit the open and come back here for a moment and kind of assess where we need to go from there. So if you do that, we'll get you ahead of that. So what do you need to know? Still, I think we need to be in that tornado safe place, assuming the worst and hoping for the best at this moment. If we're here in far eastern Pickens County along US 82, that's where this is, indicating still signs of rotation, still significant organization on this thunderstorm that could potentially be a storm trying to produce a tornado just on the northwest side of Gordo. I mean, to be honest, it's pretty much over top of Gordo. Sometimes I get a little too nitty-gritty on here than we should, and we say, okay, it's exactly here. I mean, sometimes we're looking 3/4 of a mile up in the air, so I mean, a mile or so one direction or another is absolutely a possibility. So we hone in on this, but I don't want to cast too small of a net on this. So Gordo, we need to be in that tornado safe place, and you can see right above there where we've kept up those tornado safety rules on what we are looking at here. So as we clear that off and we go back to the rainfall mode, still a rotating thunderstorm, and the National Weather Service there in Birmingham has extended there into Tuscaloosa County a tornado warning for this same area of rotation as it works its way there into Tuscaloosa and Fayette counties. So tornado warning continues until 4:15. Keep it here for the best coverage.
Always watching, always tracking. WTVA 9 News begins with the Severe Weather Authority.
I'm Chief Meteorologist Matt Lompon alongside our meteorologist Gabe Maynor, John DeLucic, our Tanya Carter on the news desk here, continuing to gather information on some sporadic damage we've seen out of a line of thunderstorms that has moved through the WTVA 9 News viewing area today. What we know is this: we are past the peak. With the exception of a few folks in Pickens County, Alabama, and maybe Noxubee County on the Mississippi side, we are past the peak of this event. So if you're watching really any place else, Tupelo, Aberdeen, Starkville, Louisville, Kilmichael, Coffeyville, most of us are done with the severe weather potential today. It will continue to be breezy. There might be some rainfall that approaches, but you are past the worst of this. Now, as you see our tornado warning box shrink down here, it is a very concentrated portion of Pickens County, Alabama, just to the northeast of Gordo, where we are not done at this moment here, and we're looking at an area of rotation right there just to the east of Alabama Highway 159 in Pickens County, Alabama, where this is attempting to produce a tornado. I'll circle it for you there, and as we've said over and over again, about the only thing that we recommend is that you do what it takes to keep you and your family safe, and by doing that, we want to go to a sturdy structure, the middle of the lowest floor, a small windowless room where we can wrap up in blankets and pillows to protect ourselves from the potential for flying debris. Have we seen flying debris on this? No. But is it possible that this storm could try to take that next step? Yes. And so as we look at the rainfall mode, I have my area rotation leading ahead of my precipitation just a little bit. If I look for debris, I don't have any of a lowered correlation there. And that correlation coefficient, which is what meteorologists call this product that we're looking at here, that is something that lets us know if there's tornado debris. And if everything that the radar is looking at in each of these little boxes that we show you here is the same thing, then we end up with that white color there. If it is different, then we start to get those colors of blue. And when we look at that, I don't see anything there that says tornado debris. Thankfully, this is then a Doppler radar indicated tornado warning. So why is this issued? The National Weather Service in Birmingham, as well as meteorologists here at WTVA 9 News, continuing to assess and look at a storm that has rotation that could potentially try to produce a tornado. But radar has not confirmed it, and storm spotters have not spotted it at this point, though we have had a number of pictures come in on this thunderstorm when it was on the Mississippi side that definitely show organization. This picture coming in, I believe, David, a little bit ago near the Prairie Point community. And what we're looking at here is kind of that lowered part of the thunderstorm, the area where you would have rotation. Now, I don't see necessarily a tight funnel cloud on this when it was there, but it's clearly an organized thunderstorm, much more organized than radar maybe initially would lend you to believe, but definitely going to have to monitor that thunderstorm, and that's the reason why we continue to do that. So that area of rotation near Bear Creek Road in Pickens County, Alabama, about to move into Tuscaloosa County, Alabama. When it moves into Tuscaloosa County, Alabama, that that. All the different cable systems and satellite providers kick that over to the Birmingham market. So we will hand that off to them. We'll assess the situation, and we'll kind of go from there. We might end up taking a brief break after we do that as well. But looking at this, moving toward the north and east speed at about 65 miles per hour, we're going to put on basically every stop sign that we can find on this to give you some locations. In many cases, that ends up being churches. And we show the Sardis Free Will Baptist Church. That's in the path of this. There's not a lot out there ahead of this, thankfully. Unfortunately for those folks there, though, still having to monitor that as a situation where this could try to produce a tornado. Now, good news, this latest scan does not look quite as impressive, but certainly something the folks will have to monitor. And with that, I believe this has gotten just far enough east that we can say that has now exited the WTVA 9 News viewing area. If you do know some folks out here that maybe watch us on Facebook Live or our live stream, you can snap a shot of the television screen. Let me get you another shot here where it keeps the exact time on it to let them know, hey, this is kind of heading their way as it moves northeast. There's not a ton of folks ahead of this, but we show Wyndham Springs in 25 minutes, or about 20 minutes or so, and the Wilston area there in about 4:31. That is an area of rotation, could potentially try to produce a tornado. And as we look across the rest of the viewing area, just to double check, we had one that was in Noxubee County a few minutes ago that had some rotation on it. It's this storm right there that does look a little bit weaker as of the latest scan. Looking at the wind mode, still some broad rotations. Get you a track on that just in case. But I don't know that it's strong enough, it's large enough to actually produce a tornado. But we show McShannon in 7 minutes, Stanzel in 10 minutes, Reform, we're at 13 minutes, a little area of rotation, not as strong as what moved south of you, but no guarantees that you're good to go with that. And then as we kind of keep it in the wind mode here and we look farther south, it does look like these thunderstorms continue to stay just a little bit south of the WTVA 9 News viewing area. So we're going to take a brief commercial break if we could here. We're going to send WLOV back to regular programming, and we'll... Okay, and then, yeah, so then, okay, so we will take a quick break and be right back with more WTVA 9 News at 4 right after this.